Hey, thanks for checking out this clip from the After Files. We're live almost every Thursday night directly after the episode premieres. So thanks for checking this out and hope to see you live next week.
Would you kindly fetch my tinfoil hat?
He actually comes with his own tinfoil hat. So you could put that on him yourself, or sometimes you just let him bareback, whatever you want to do. So if you order him soon, you'll be in the first batch of those that are coming in shortly. It's a great way to support the channel. T-shirts are on there. We try to keep them cheap. All the mugs are 100% fistable, so you know they're good. If you'd like to get a little closer, don't be shy with the channel. Become a Patreon member. Paul's a Patreon member for a lot of money a month, but for $3, you could support the channel. You get early access to stuff like the Hecklefish plushie. Get special recognition on Discord. And you get 2 extra live streams a week. So on Thursdays, before we launch the premiere, we jump on Discord, the whole team and I, and we just talk to everybody. And you can put your webcam on. And then we'll do that again tomorrow morning. So rather than try to communicate with us through the crazy chat, if you're in the Discord live stream, there's not that many people there. So everyone gets a chance to talk. All right, Sonny, I appreciate you. So Here's David Grush's opening statement.
This is an important issue, and I'm grateful.
Before we get started, all the clips I pulled are I tried to find the shortest ones I could with time code where I could to keep them just a few minutes each. I'm going to keep my eye on the chat to see what you guys think. What is Victoria putting in the chat? That's crazy. Jenny, what is she doing in there? Did she stroke out? Did she go full Mitch McConnell on us? She stroked out. Somebody check on her. Someone do a welfare check on Victoria. She's just, I think she had a stroke and just her forehead is typing things. Is she all right?
She's fine.
No, look.
She's fine.
What was doing?
I'm calling 911. I'm calling 911. Jake Best, Victoria has officially lost her mind. Finally. Pebbles likes the George nap. Wagman thinks it's the crab cat. Could be. Fear the crab cat. Omega Dash tells Victoria, blink twice if you're under duress. You made her wheeze. She got cut back on those Pall Malls. Lisa Lapp, did they say he had a stroke? Mitch looked like it. The last I heard news-wise was he said he got lightheaded by the heat. That didn't look like that to me, but I don't mean to poke fun. That joke kind of spilled out before my brain could catch it. Still funny, though. For Boston, you don't believe the whistleblower guy. Yeah, we're going to get into it. I'll keep an eye on the chat. We can analyze and discuss. But here's his opening statement.
This is an important issue, and I'm grateful for your time. My name is David Charles Grush. I was an intelligence officer for 14 years, both in the U.S. Air Force, both active duty, Air National Guard, and Reserve at the rank of major, and most recently from 2021 to 2023, at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, at the GS-15 civilian level, which is the military equivalent of a full bird colonel. I was my agency's co-lead in unidentified anomalous phenomena and transmedium object analysis, as well as reporting to the UAP task force, UAPTF, and eventually, once it was established, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. I became a whistleblower through a PPD-19 urgent concern filing in May 2022 with the Intelligence Community Inspector General. Following concerning reports from multiple esteemed and credentialed current and former military and intelligence community individuals that the U.S. government is operating with secrecy above congressional oversight with regards to UAPs. My testimony is based on information I've been given by individuals with a long-standing track record of legitimacy and service to this country, many of whom also have shared compelling evidence in the form of photography, official documentation, and classified oral testimony to myself and my various colleagues. I have taken every step I can to corroborate this evidence over a period of 4 years while I was with the UAP task force and do my due diligence on the individual sharing it. This is because of these steps, I believe strongly in the importance of bringing this information before you. I am driven by a commitment of both to truth and transparency, rooted in our inherent duty to uphold the United States Constitution and protect the American people. I'm asking Congress to hold our government to this standard and thoroughly investigate these claims. But as I stand here under oath now, I am speaking to the facts as I've been told them. In the U.S. Air Force, in my National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, reservist capacity, I was a member of the UAP Task Force from 2019 to 2021. I served at the NRO Operations Center on the Director's Briefing staff, which included the coordination of the Presidential Daily Brief and supporting variety of contingency operations, which I was the Reserve Intelligence Division Chief backup. In 2019, the UAP Task Force Director asked me to identify all special access programs and controlled access programs, also known as SAPs and CAPs, we needed to satisfy our congressionally mandated mission, and we were direct report at the time to the DepSecDef. At the time, due to my extensive executive level intelligence support duties, I was cleared to literally all relevant compartments and in a position of extreme.
Fawcett 98, he can't lie under oath. I'm glad you're watching, but you are adorable.
Trust, both in my military and civilian capacities. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, to which I was denied access to those additional read-ons when I requested it. I made the decision, based on the data I collected, to report this information to my superiors and multiple inspectors general, and in effect becoming a whistleblower. As you know, I've suffered retaliation for my decision, but I am hopeful that my actions will ultimately lead to a positive outcome of increased transparency.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here.
Shut up, George. All right, so we have to remember that everything he says has been pre-approved by the Pentagon Department of Defense. JetMech, what is the Discord? It's go to wifiles.com/Discord. That works. Everything that Grush says is approved by the Pentagon and the DoD, and he admits it freely. So what he has to do, he has to write out everything that he's going to discuss, and then the Pentagon looks at it, confirms that there's nothing of concern to national security, and then he can go and say it. So that doesn't sound like whistleblowing to me. That sounds like PR. Yeah, someone in the chat said, come on, Corbell, go and buy a suit. He's looking kind of cash back there, isn't he? I mean, the beard looks good, but looking kind of cash. And George does look a little bit sleepy. Mr. Birdie thinks lizard people are in the background. Mike Murph, could he actually be trying to fool our adversaries into thinking we have technology greater than we do for intimidation? That could be. Adernum thinks is the start of Bluebeam. I'm not a big believer in Bluebeam, but it could be the start of something. Lisa Lapp says he does say he's in fear of his life. He does say that. And look, I'm not going to just crap on the guy's testimony, because he says plenty of things that are crazy in that you would believe him. Like he's fears for his life, that he's been harassed, he's been threatened, and so forth. But again, everything is approved, and some of the language he uses feels like he's trying to throw us off a trail. So if remember Richard Doty, from the Paul Benowitz case. Paul Benowitz, goes back in the 80s. I don't know if you've seen that episode. It's the Dulce Base episode. So Paul Benowitz sees a bunch of lights at the Air Force Base next door to his house. And he's a former military guy, and he's a military contractor. So he knows all the stuff. He knows all the people at the base. He's not like a weird guy in town. He's involved with the Air Force. Sees a bunch of weird stuff, lights in the sky, craft moving around. And he goes and he reports it to the base. And Benowitz has gone down in history as kind of a crazy guy who sees UFOs and aliens everywhere. That's not the whole truth. He ended up that way, but that's not how he started. When he first saw the lights and stuff, he was concerned that it was experimental aircraft, that he was afraid that the military was being kind of too open about it. So he was going there saying, look, from my neighborhood, I can see all this crazy stuff in the sky. Enter Richard Doty and the Office of Air Force and of OSI, right? They go to Benowitz and say, oh, these are UFOs, man. You're seeing UFOs. We got to keep this quiet. This is between us. It's UFOs. And then, Benowitz is like, what? And then he starts hearing aliens over like his radio, which turned out to be the NSA camped in the house across the street, transmitting to him. And he went kind of off the deep end. And that man was sacrificed to keep him from looking into experimental aircraft. So that's why there was a disinformation campaign. Is this the same thing? There's a few theories. That's one of them, is that as long as we are looking at this guy and this stuff, we're not looking at what's going on over here. That the Tic Tac is maybe a special Air Force project that's compartmentalized. So, the guys flying don't know what it is. So it's like, just tell the American people it's aliens. Just tell them it's aliens so we can get back to work. That's a theory. Now, I've said this over and over. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I believe in aliens. I believe in UFOs. I believe that the United States has all that stuff. I believe all that stuff. But I don't believe military and military intelligence people, and don't believe spokesmen for the government. And if everything that you say is approved by the Department of Defense, well, guess what? You're not a whistleblower. You're a spokesman. And I'm leery of that. I want to be wrong. Just approach all this stuff with a skeptical eye. Duke Lake says much, much, much bigger. Joker 2465 testimony is approved. That's correct. Now, and look, the other side of that story is he did submit a bunch of information in private to Congress. And we don't really know what that is, but we know that names have been named, and some of the corporations involved have been listed. And even when he kind of hints that someone was maybe killed, he says, well, that I can't talk about that, but that is something that I submitted information and reported at the proper authorities. 08 AOC says, AJ, you should be looking into Antarctica. Check out the Operation High Jump video. We'll get into a lot of stuff there. But a bigger video is coming up on Antarctica soon, when we're going to get into Eric Hecker and his stuff. If you're asking about that, then you know who Eric Hecker is. All right, we've got Congressman Burchett here with a great statement. If I can get it to work. We've always got technical issues.
Yikes. You call this a live stream? How are you not embarrassed?
I am embarrassed, Cap. All right. Here's Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. I want to thank everybody for making this happen today. And I want to remind everybody this is a nonpartisan issue. This has nothing to do with party politics. I think the cover-up goes a lot deeper than that. I also want to thank my colleagues, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, sitting beside me here, Jared Moskowitz, my friend across the aisle, has an incredible mind, and I'm anxious to hear his questions. My buddy Eric Burleson, and it's not in my notes here, but Matt Gates. If it hadn't been for Matt Gates, myself, him, and Luna would still be down at Eglin Air Force Base trying to get some answers.
I'll pause him here because Burchett does a lot of asides and jokes and stuff. But I just saw in the chat a good point. Duck Prince, he comes across like someone very well rehearsed. Yeah, if you look at Grush's first interview, I keep forgetting, was it News Nation or was it Newsmax? I think it was News Nation. His first interview, he was kind of shaky. I still didn't like it. I still was suspicious of it. It was kind of shaky. And now with this one, he's very smooth, isn't it? Like he's been, I don't know, rehearsing it in a mirror or been working with media training, which military intel definitely does. Teaches you how to speak and what to speak.
He's got an incredible legal mind. Also, I know I saw it in the crowd there, George Knapp, my buddy Jeremy Corbell. They're not witnesses, but they've provided some statements on this subject, and I seek unanimous consent to enter those statements into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
Chance, maybe he's intelligence or counterintelligence. He has operated in both in his career. His last was counterintel, and counterintel is, by definition, in the United States military, disinformation. That's what they do.
Also, would like to enter in. I understand now that this is unclassified and it's public record, but as we all know, that's sometimes difficult for the public to get a hold of. A report, Defense Intelligence reference documents, advanced space propulsion based on vacuum, space-time metric engineering, some light reading for some of our members.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp wrote, since 1969, the position of our military has been that UFOs pose no threat to national security and are not worthy of further study. I'd say that's the biggest understatement of the decade. He also goes on to talk about the dismissive attitude. It's at odds with what was revealed in documents, reports, and internal memos. Mr. Cabral says, as he writes these words, the UFO is emerging as a major topic of global importance. I can state that as a fact. Out there, I met a fellow who came in here all the way from Denmark to be here for this meeting. So this is huge. This is worldwide. I think we suspect what's going on, but I'd also like to thank the members of Congress who have supported our efforts to make this hearing happen. Some have even confided to me that they've had UFO sightings of their own. Those members, of course, some of them wish to remain anonymous, and I'll keep it that way. But also, finally, I'd like to thank these three brave witnesses here. They took an oath. They took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and dadgummit, they're doing it. And we owe them a debt of gratitude.
Yes, David. That's what I believe.
Y'all quit clapping. You're cutting in on my time. Just kidding. These folks, they've got nothing to gain from this. And I think you're going to find out that they've endured quite a few slings and arrows. We need to remember them in our prayers and their families. And I'm thankful to them for their honest testimonies. They have done interviews and appeared in documentaries like Accidental Truth to get their stories out there. And now they are all here to testify under oath for Congress. It's been so difficult to get here today. I've said, in the Baptist church, we'd say that the devil's in our way. And the devil has been in our way through this thing. We've run into roadblocks from members, from the intelligence community, the Pentagon. I proposed legislation to go in the FAA reauthorization that just said if an airline pilot has a sighting, that when he makes that report to the FAA, that it would come to Congress. But I was told that the intelligence community did not like that, and the amendment was not even heard in committee. I think it's time for this country to take back our country. We need to tell the folks at the Pentagon they work for us. Dadgummit, we don't work for them. And that's exactly the point. This is an issue of government transparency. We can't trust a government that does not trust its people. We're not bringing little green men or flying saucers into the hearing. Sorry to disappoint about half y'all. We're just going to get to the facts. We're going to uncover the cover-up, and I hope this is just the beginning of many more hearings and more people coming forward about this. And I yield back the remainder of my time. I think, is it to Representative Luna, Mr. Chairman, or is that?
He's hokey, but he's an ally. If you want disclosure, he's an ally, no matter, whatever political affiliation you have, he's an ally. And he's the only one who says that one line. They work for us. So he's in Congress. He's on the committee. He's on the oversight committee. That means they have oversight. And he says, I want this information. And they say no. And he says, no, 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 I'm on the oversight committee. We don't care. You can't have it. National security. No can do. But take it up with someone else. No can do. And that's what they won't provide a SCIF. So that's why it was a very frustrating, because you can see the frustration with some of the politicians on both sides of the aisle. Like, we ask for stuff, they won't provide it. Melissa Johnson, you're a little late, but how dare you, madam? How dare you? Okay, here's Nancy Mace. She's good on this issue. You know, and I know that they're quote unquote whistleblowers, and the congressmen are trying to be respectful. But if I were up there, I would want to make Grush a little bit uncomfortable. Like, just ask questions, try to get him out of his comfort zone, and see how much information can be had. I mean, because I know that she's not going to do that, because she believes that she's going to get the true information later, but she's not going to get it. So I would, make him a little uncomfortable.
Ms. Mace?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to our witnesses who are testifying today. I want to thank each of you for being here to discuss a topic of grave importance to our national security. Earlier this year, a Chinese spy balloon was shot down off the coast of my home state of South Carolina. Since the Roswell incident in 1947, many Americans have wondered about the dangers of unknown objects crisscrossing our skies, whether these are UAPs or weather phenomena, advanced technology from American allied or enemy forces, or something more out of this world. So my first question, I have several questions, and if we can just be quick on these first two, I'm going to ask each of you the same question, and then I'll get to each of you individually. The first one, when you reported your experiences with a UAP, did any of you face any repercussions with your superiors, yes or no?
No.
No. I've actually never seen anything personally, believe it or not. So.
All right. And then do you believe there's an active disinformation campaign within our government to deny existence of UAPs, yes or no?
I don't have an answer to that.
As previously stated publicly, yes.
Yes, that's a SCIF. It's basically a room they go into, no phones, no electronics, no cameras, nothing like that. So that's what the SCIF is.
I think previously with like Project Blue Book, yes, but currently I don't speak for the United States government.
Okay, thank you. I have a few questions for Mr. Graves. What percentage of UAP sightings in your belief go unreported by our pilots?
This is an approximation based off of my personal experience speaking with a number of pilots, but I would estimate we're somewhere near 5% reporting perhaps.
So like 95% basically don't report seeing UAPs.
That's just my personal estimate.
In the incident off Virginia Beach, do you believe the Navy took the danger to your aircraft seriously after it was reported?
Absolutely.
A few questions for Mr. Favor. As an expert naval aviator, have you ever seen an object that looked and moved like the Tic Tac UAP?
No.
Did the Tic Tac UAP move in such a way that defied the laws of physics?
The way we understand them, yes.
Many dismiss UAP reports as classified weapons testing by our own government, but in your experience as a pilot, does our government typically test advanced weapon systems right next to multi-million-dollar jets without informing our pilots?
No, we have test ranges for that.
It took over 15 years for your encounter with the Tic Tac to be declassified. Do you feel there was a good reason to prevent lawmakers from having access to this footage?
No, I just think it was ignored when it happened and it just sat somewhere in a file, never got reported.
In a drawer. It happens a lot up here. Shocker. Mr. Grush, a couple of questions for you too, sir, this morning. What percentage of UAPs do you feel are adequately investigated by the U.S. government of the 5% that are reported?
I can only speak for my personal leadership over at NGA. I tried to look at every report that came through that I could triage. So.
Do you believe that officials at the highest levels of our national security apparatus have unlawfully withheld information from Congress and subverted our oversight authority?
There are certain elected leaders that had more information that I'm not sure what they've shared with certain Gang of Eight members or et cetera, but certainly I would not be surprised.
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Biologics. When did you hear that word before the past few weeks? Biologics. Airplane Willie, the more I think about this hearing, the more I get pissed off about it. Same.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and you may or may not be able to answer my last question, and maybe we get into a skiff at the next hearing that we have, but who in the government, either what agency, sub-agency, what contractors, who should be called into the next hearing about UAPs, either in a public setting or even in a private setting? And you probably can't name names, but what agencies or organizations, contractors, et cetera, do we need to call in to get these questions answered, whether it's about funding, what programs are happening, and what's out there?
I can give you a specific cooperative and hostile witness list of specific individuals that were in those.
And how soon can we get that list?
I'm happy to provide that to you after the hearing.
Super. Thank you. And I yield back.
I'd like to see that list. Niall M. You did some backwards recording on that. I agree. So kind of getting into that the government is hiding, and that's really the biggest takeaway from the hearings, is that the government's hiding stuff. We're not going to get specific super crazy movie geek hostile witnesses. Yes, we want those. We want those. Scrungy says a banana is non-human biologics. That's true. Victor, SpaceX launch in 43 minutes. All right, I could try to wrap it up by then. Hecklefish is a hostile witness confirmed.
Finally, a human who gets it.
All right, here's Anna Paulina Luna, former Instagram model, now a congresswoman. Why not?
The circumstances surrounding UAPs has captivated the attention of the American people for decades, ingrained in even the minds of our nation's leaders from Jimmy Carter to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump, Marco Rubio to Chuck Schumer, John Radcliffe to National Security Council officials. Yet from Roswell, New Mexico to the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, the sightings of UAPs have rarely been explained by the people who have firsthand accounts of these situations. This is largely due to the lack of transparency by our own government and the failure of our elected leaders to make good on their promises to release explanations and footage and mountains of overclassified documents that continue to be hidden from the American people. This isn't just how I feel. In fact, the American people largely believe that the government has actively covered up the truth about UAPs. One poll in particular found that 68% of Americans believe that the government is hiding information about UAPs and not being honest about what we know about them. And from
Bruno Bizarro, so is the rest of the world hiding UAP as well? Yes, they are. Any country that takes money from the United States government, if there's a UAP crash or something, the United States handles it. And that's been that case since, at least since the 50s. Where Italy had that big crash. So if you take money from the United States government, they will have authority over that crash. And you know which countries take money from the United States government?
my personal experience, I believe the same thing. Another poll found that nearly half Americans believe that the federal government is doing a very bad or somewhat bad job of dealing with reports of UFO sightings. as Representative Burchett just referenced on the FA bill that just went through, you can tell that that's exactly happening. Considering the thousands of testimonies and videos taken on people's phones and eyewitnesses' accounts made by credible witnesses such as doctors, pilots, scientists, and active duty service members, it is unacceptable to continue to gaslight Americans into thinking that this is not happening or that the potential of intelligent life forms exists other than humans. Even more alarming is the fact that these eyewitnesses are many of times service members and have no assurance that their lives will not be negatively impacted or even harmed by their experiences. In being an active duty service member working on an airfield, I've had conversations with many pilots where they were in fear of coming forward for retribution and or being taken off flight status. How do we know this? Because the government has said nothing to assure us otherwise. They have also did nothing to calm the concerns of over 20% of Americans who have reported to have seen UFOs or UAPs. We are simply told not to question the government and that the government has it under control. Today is the first hearing of its kind where we will attempt to get down to the bottom of what is actually happening with UAPs. But we will hear from people who have had personal sightings rather than Pentagon bureaucrats who have always been sent to stonewall our investigations. Just so that the press knows and the people know, we were even denied access to a classified briefing in a SCIF prior to this hearing due to the amount of hoops that we had to jump through to grant temporary clearance to witness Grush, who has knowledge of classified information. It is time to have an open-minded discussion on this topic, to hear the evidence and understand the magnitude of what this means, not just for our nation, but for humanity. Thank you, Chairman. I yield back the rest of my time.
Australia included is correct. Trenton's open to hearing her out this hearing. Lovely heart eyes. Lee Martin, she's got 4 skin suits behind her. Well, she can kind of read. Yeah, she wasn't that compelling, but I like Congress people talking about the government cover-up. Grant, Five Eyes, that's correct. Those are all the English-speaking nations. The Five Eyes, that's the group of nations that collaborate on spying on their citizens. So those are United States, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. Those are the Five Eyes. Tony, I know Tony Williams says fake lips is a patriot or not. Yeah, the lips bother me too. That, that facelift before the facelift look. Look, she didn't need to do that. She's 33, 34. She didn't need to do that so soon.
You know,
right?
she was in the armed forces.
I think
she
she
was.
Well, she went to the Citadel,
Mhm.
but I don't think, did she actually serve?
I don't know if she saw combat, but I was just looking her up.
I don't know if,
I mean, she
did she
obviously
go?
didn't see combat, but
No, she didn't see combat. I think she was the first woman at the Citadel, but I don't know if she actually went into the service into active duty. Did she?
I'm looking to see.
Oh, you're looking. R. Rogers says yes.
Yeah. So,
Red Pool, when are you going to? Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, what are you going to say? I'll queue up the next video here. Someone wants to hear Matt Gates, so I have him ready to go.
So, yes. I mean, she didn't sound like, it sounded like somebody wrote that for her and she read it. But, she wasn't necessarily an Instagram model. She worked for Turning Point as like their head of Hispanic outreach. So she was an influencer for sure.
She was.
But, that's what happens now. That's how people get into politics.
It is. That's my mom's congresswoman right there.
But, yeah.
All right, I'm going to let you go, but your shirt's falling off there, showing a lot of skin. Let's get that squared away. Here she goes. She goes. Now she can do it. If you're not going to do a sexy dance, then fix it. You're going to I'll take that as a no on the sexy dance. All right, someone wanted to see Matt Gates. Here you go.
Several months ago, my office received a protected disclosure from Eglin Air Force.
Cody Welch, Matt Gates has Botox now, I think. He does. But his is a little nicer. It's a little more subtle. I don't know who his guy is, but I want his
Base
number.
indicating that there was a UAP incident that required my attention. I sought a briefing regarding that episode and brought with me Congressman Burchett and Congresswoman Luna. We asked to see any of the evidence that had been taken by flight crew in this endeavor and to observe any radar signature as well as to meet with the flight crew. We were not afforded access to all of the flight crew. And initially, we were not afforded access to images and to radar. Thereafter, we had a bit of a discussion about how authorities flow in the United States of America, and we did see the image. And we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I'm somewhat informed on the matter, having served on the Armed Services Committee for 7 years, having served on the committee that oversees DARPA and advanced technologies for several years. When we spoke with the flight crew, and when he showed us the photo that he'd taken, I asked why the video wasn't engaged, why we didn't have a FLIR system that worked. Here's what he said. They were out on a test mission that day over the Gulf of Mexico. And when you're on a test mission, you're supposed to have clear airspace. Not supposed to be anything that shows up. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down. He said that his FLIR system malfunctioned and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection as you would typically see in a test mission. So I guess I'll start with Commander Fravor. How should we think about the fact that this craft that was approached by our pilot had the capability of disarming a number of the sensor and collection systems on that craft?
Well, I think this goes to that national security side, and you can go back through history of things showing up at certain areas and disabling our capabilities, which is disheartening. And for us, I mean, like I said, it completely disabled the radar on the aircraft when it tried to do it. And the only way we could see it is passively, which is how he got that image. So I think that's a concern on what are these doing, not only how do they operate, but their capabilities inside to do things like this.
And how should we think about 4 craft moving in a very clear formation, equidistant from one another, in a diamond? In all of the phenomenon, perhaps, Mr. Grave, that you've analyzed, have we ever seen multiple craft in a single formation?
I have one particular case, and that was during the gimbal incident. The recording on the AT FLIR system shows a single object that rotates. You hear the pilots refer to a fleet of objects that is not visible on the FLIR system. And that was something that I witnessed during the debrief as part of the radar data on the situational awareness page. I would like to add, however, Congressman, there's a small bit of anger, I would say. I would feel that those pilots are still facing that difficulty in reporting this topic, and they don't have the tools to be able to mitigate this issue. It just goes to show how serious this is and why this is such an important issue for our pilots and for our nation.
It was stated explicitly to me by these test pilots that if you have a UAP experience, the best thing you can do for your career is forget it and not tell anyone. Because any type of reporting, either above the surface or below the surface, does have a perceived consequence to these people. And that is a culture we must change if we want to get to the truth. Mr. Chairman, I would observe that perhaps as we move forward from this hearing, there are some obvious next steps. Every person watching this knows that we need to meet with Mr. Grush in a secure, compartmentalized facility so that we can get fulsome answers that do not put him in jeopardy and that give us the information we need. Second, I would suggest that the radar images that were collected of this formation of craft out of Eglin Air Force Base, and specifically the actual image taken by the actual flight crew that we can actually validate, be provided to the committee, subpoenaed if necessary, so that we're able to track how to get this type of reporting and analysis done in a more fulsome way. That would be my recommendation, humbly, as a guest here of the Fine Oversight Committee. I yield back.
Yes, please. We'd like some pictures of that. Someone wondering if they found Space Panda out there. I don't think they found him yet. Double back again. Why would aliens bother with us? They probably wouldn't. I mean, we've read a couple of stories the past few weeks on this show from different, I wouldn't call them whistleblowers, but people that have come forward that worked in retrieval. And the stories all kind of line up with aliens are here. They don't care about us. They're here for the resources, water, gold, other stuff like that. They don't care about us, but when we do things that threaten the planet, like drop nuclear bombs, they're not that cool with that. So then they get involved, but otherwise they look at us like we're in a zoo. We're just these destructive, crazy, primitive monkeys that are just in their way. And that if it got to the point where we would prevent them from collecting the resources they're here to collect, they would just get rid of us. And that would be that. Michelle McClone thinks we're the zoo to the aliens. Yeah. And that's what a couple of people have said. Yoda, imagine being so small-minded you believe in nothing. There's no one here that fits that description, Yoda. We're all believers here. We just want the truth. John Pearson, we are a resource. Yeah, he's talking about it's a cookbook. It's people. That's a great Twilight Zone episode. Hey, Taryn, what if we are the resource? Yeah. But I don't think we are. I don't think we are. Because they would just have us. All right, a couple of quick super chats, and then we're going to get to Fravers. Where is he? There he is. Fravers pretty good. He's interesting. This seems like a guy you want to sit and have a little cocktail or two with. Like, David, come on. It's just us. It's just us. Tell him what happened. What happened? I feel like he would say it. But there's Darth Hispanicus. Thank you for supporting the channel, Darth Hispanicus. Do you think the U.S. government is getting the citizens ready for new alien leadership? I say this due to all the release of extraterrestrial evidence. No, Darth, I don't believe that one bit. I think we're basically just animals taking up space. But look, nobody knows because we can't get to the truth. But if there was a large alien presence here just harvesting resources from the earth that viewed the human race as just animals that may be in the way, that's a reason to not tell folks. So I hope that's not it, but I kind of feel like that it might be. There's Drunken Pumpkin for $50.
A modern-day goldfish lives in style, but you haven't tipped in quite a while. My money is all spent. You haven't tipped a cent. I gotta pay my rent, or I'll be living in a tent in Portland.
No, you don't want to be living in a tent in Portland. Or you don't want to be living in a tent in Seattle either. You follow that on the news? Crazy stuff going on in Seattle. Throwing bombs into tents. Drunken Pumpkin, just $50. Appreciate what you do. Perfect. Perfect super chat right there. $50 helps keep the channel going, keeps the content coming. No homework. Just appreciate, man. Appreciate you. Here's Basiqua. Very consistent support of the channel. The hearing can only be bland and boring and old. Otherwise, Orwellian mayhem will ensue and cats will marry dogs, obviously. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. And there is Blank Canvas - Life Wanderers. Sounds like you've got a YouTube channel. Could you imagine if aliens came here now and asked to be taken to our leader? Great show. Ask Gino if he knows where I can get some coffee. All right. Talk about blowing a chance for a plug. But I think you can go to Caveman Coffee Co. Blank canvas dash life wanderers. And there's Tim McAlpine. Thank you for all you do. Love how you give both sides and want to be deep in. You want to be in deep in Mel's Hole too, huh? Mel's Hole has got room for both of us, man. We can get right in there. We could plumb the depths. There's Thomas Caldwell 74. Thank you for $5. Thank you for the hairstyle. Rock and roll. Right?
Seagulls.
Flock of seagulls. Iran and Space Age Love Song. Those are the only ones I know. You're singing one in your head right now, right?
I ran.
You're singing. All right, go ahead.
And I ran so far away. That one?
Gino, did they say Iran?
I think so.
They say Iran.
Oh. Well, I think
Iran so far, right? Couldn't get away.
Couldn't get away.
Oh, they say Iran?
Yeah, that's what they sound like. I thought I was missing something like we had some kind of glitch in the matrix here, and I didn't know what the words originally were.
We're now in copyright territory, huh?
Yeah.
I really blew it. I blew it.
I think you're all
Blew
right.
it. We're fine. I am only teasing. Besides, we got the support of Thomas Caldwell 74. How do you think the people would react to the truth coming out? Our society at large is ready to know the truth. Hecklefish impersonating Greta equals comedy gold. I thought it was funny too. How dare you? How do you think people would react to the truth coming out? I think, honestly, Thomas, most people would freak out. Even the people who are like, no, I'm definitely ready, would freak out. Go ahead.
Well, look, Victoria and I were talking about this the other day. Yesterday, I think it was. The thing is we've been having alien sightings on this planet for how many years?
All of them.
All of them. So they've been here. Like, if they were going to do something and take over the planet and enslave us or eat us or whatever it is that they were going to do, don't you think they would have done it by now? Don't you think they would have done it during World War I, World War II? Any of that kind of craziness if they were worried about us destroying the planet? Like, I feel like they're just, they're here, they're watching, whatever. But I feel like they're us from like the future, maybe. I don't know.
They're getting worse at playing hide and seek, though.
That's true. There's just so many different reasons, and it just can't get the story to line up in my head. But it feels like if they cared about human beings at all, that they would have been known to us. So it makes sense to me that they're here for resources, but I don't understand why we're seeing them everywhere. Like if you want our resources, you think you try to be a little sketch about it. Find a cloud, right? Come out.
I don't see why they're just hanging out. Like, why haven't they? I think part of the reason why we see so much more of it now is because everybody has a camera in their pocket now. Everybody has one of these. And
that's true. Everything's on video now.
Everything can fake stuff. So, like, how much of this stuff is real? How much of it's fake? It used to be some local dude in Kentucky saw something, and it maybe had an article in the newspaper, maybe.
No offense if you're from Kentucky, by the way. She's just picking it. She's picking the state. That's fine.
I'm just saying somewhere random, So I don't know. I don't know that it's necessarily more, or if it's just because we all are carrying around cameras in our pockets.
Oh, that's a good point. All right, let's see what Commander Fravor has to say. There she goes.
Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Burchett himself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. I would like to have you on the my legislation to do just that on the reporting. And we'll get together on that. Maybe you can be my co-sponsor on that. That'd be really cool. Thank you for those great questions. Mr. Graves, again, I'd like to know, how do you know that these were not our aircraft?
Some of the behaviors that we saw in a working area, we would see these objects being at 0.0 Mach, that's 0 airspeed, over certain pieces of the ground. So what that means, just like a river, if you throw a bobber in, it's going to float downstream. These objects were staying completely stationary in Category 4 hurricane winds. These same objects would then accelerate to supersonic speeds, 1.1, 1.2 Mach, and they would do so in very erratic and quick behaviors that I don't have an explanation for.
Okay. Have you spoken to commercial and military pilots that have seen these off of our East Coast?
I have.
Okay. Mr. Favor, I noticed that in the Tic Tac video, it's Tic Tac like the candy, not TikTok like the Chinese Communist app.
That's correct.
Yes, sir. I just want to make that because my daughter corrected me on that and called me a boomer and said, "Hey, boomer," and I said, "No, baby,
He called me a boomer, baby.
it's Tic Tac like the candy. You're gonna have to just look it up." And but now I would also like to say today.
What are you shaking your head at?
Just
You don't like the way he talks?
lots of words. Okay.
Oh, he asks good questions, but in between, he like says happy anniversary to his wife. He talks to his daughter. Did you remember to take the garbage out? He does a whole. He's all over the place, but he's entertaining.
Today is a day of many firsts. It's a miracle that we're having this meeting, and it's also a miracle that my wife has put up with me for 9 years.
There he
today.
goes.
Today is my anniversary.
There he
so I wanna
goes.
Tell my wife happy anniversary and that I love her very much. As she likes to say, this 9 years have been the best 2 years of her life. So thank you. Mr. Favor, what astonished you the most about the flight capabilities of these Tic Tac, very briefly?
The performance, absolute performance. It was.
And you're not aware of any other objects that anybody in the world has in this world that has those capabilities?
No, I think it's far beyond actually our material science that we currently possess.
Are you aware of any other reconnaissance platforms that have tracked or recorded the Tic Tac's maneuvers, maybe the NORAD system or any of the others?
I am not.
Okay. Mr. Grush, thank you for being here, brother. Thank you all very much. Have you faced any retaliation or reprisals for any of your testimony or anything on these lines?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say in detail because there is an open whistleblower reprisal investigation on my behalf, and I don't want to compromise that investigation by providing anything that may help provide some information. But it was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, to be quite frank. Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. As they say, when you're over the target, that's when they do the most firing at you. Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes. Personally.
Have anyone been murdered that you would think that you know of or have heard of, I guess?
I have to be careful asking that question. I directed people with that knowledge to the appropriate authorities.
Maybe in a, if we could get in a confidential area, SCIF, we could talk about that. But unfortunately, we were denied access to the SCIF, and that's very unfortunate in this scenario.
So,
Mr. Favor, do you believe that you witnessed an additional object under the water in relation to your encounter?
I will say we did not see an object. There was something there to cause the whitewater, and when we turned around, it was gone. So there was something there that obviously moved.
Okay, it was not the same object though that you were looking at, correct?
No, we actually joked that the Tic Tac was communicating with something when we came back, and because the whitewater disappeared.
We were in another instance, we're told about the capabilities of a jamming during viewing of when there were some people chasing some of these objects. Did you experience any of that jamming or interrupting your radar or weapons system?
My crew that launched after we landed experienced significant jamming to the APG-73 radar, which was what we had on board, which is a mechanically scanned, very high-end system prior to the APG-79.
Jim, that's correct. Everything that he is whistleblowing, Grush we're talking about, is secondhand. He witnessed nothing. This is all stuff he's heard and read.
And yes, it did pretty much everything you could do: range, velocity, aspect, and then it spit the lock, and the targeting pod is passive. That's what we were able to get the video on.
I'm about to run out of time, but are you aware of any of our enemies that have that capability?
No.
Okay. I would also like to note for the record that like George Knapp breaking Area 51, he's the reason I knew about that. And the reason I know about the Tic Tacs is Leslie Keene from New York Times article, and I would encourage everybody to read that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back to you for no time.
Well, WCF Invader thinks that was sleepy. Well, we're going to get you woken up with some Gino story hour in just a minute. Read in the chat. If you want any more clips of that, let me know. That's the gist. Let me see. I took some quick notes here of all the takeaways. Takeaways. The U.S. government conducted a multi-decade program which collected and attempted to reverse engineer craft UFOs, says David Grush, who heard this from others. Grush led analysis of unexplained anomalous phenomena, though didn't witness any, within a U.S. Department of Defense agency until 2023. Claimed he had been denied access to secret government UFO programs, says he had faced very brutal retaliation as a result of his allegations. He claimed he had knowledge of... Oh, my goodness.
So unprofessional.
Sorry.
This isn't a live stream. This is a circus.
Grush told lawmakers that non-human biologics had been recovered by the government, but he had never seen an alien body. Grush has also not seen the alleged alien craft himself. He says his claims are based on extensive interviews with high-level intelligence officials. And skeptics have noted that accusations that the government is hiding information on UFOs are nothing new. The Pentagon has denied Grush's claims of a cover-up. In a statement, the Defense Department spokesperson said investigators have not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. How about that? We looked everywhere. We don't see no craft. You believe that official report, Gino? Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm speechless as well. All right, once Gino gets his mic turned on, we can do some Gino story hour. I think we're gonna need some.
Sorry.
There's some show prep, right? I thought I saw a folder in there.
Yeah.
I think did Victoria actually make a folder of show prep?
And it was like,
I don't know where's Gino. Oh shit, where he go? Tell me something I don't know. Where's Gino? Oh shit, where he go? Jet set and betting at the regular scenes. Worldwide travel fiend with the green. Jack hair, he's the ball.
Okay, yeah, here's some stuff.
Where's Gino? Yeah, that's who. And yeah, it's true, cause that's a dude he cares about. He brings around the vibes and this what's up.
All right, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna take a quick 1 minute break. I'm gonna take a quick break. You want to read a couple of super chats while